You're listening to the We Are Dan and Sam podcast,
a podcast about our life, family, surrogacy, and adventure.
and a closer look into our life as content creators.
Let's jump into today's episode. All right, guys, welcome to the We Are Dan and Sam podcast. What? You gave me a funny look.
I'm just trying to multitask. And
remember that time you were like, hey, are you ready? And then I said, yeah, are you ready? And you said, yeah. And then I started the podcast, and then you gave me a funny look.
That's just life in general. That's marriage.
That just happened. So, we are currently sitting on our bed. This is our new podcast studio for our podcast.
It is. You know, RV life, you just have to make it work.
It's like the Swiss Army knife of homes.
Oh my gosh, it is. This is like our office, our bedroom, podcast studio.
Why'd you say it like that? You made it sound like we're 50 Shades Grey over here. We're like an old married couple. The other day I was like, and you're like, maybe Wednesday. I'm like, oh, we're all the way to scheduling it now. Is that what we're doing?
No! Oh my gosh. You know, last episode was our sex sandwich sleep episode, so they just heard all our business.
I've had a whole lot of sandwiches and sleep, and we're missing part of that equation.
We're spending too much time in our friend's hot tub. It has been so fun, though. But let's get into our actual episode today, what we're talking about.
This is good quality content right here.
I'm glad these people already follow and hopefully love us, that by the time they get to this podcast, it's not like, oh, who are these people? Like, I'm excited to follow them and get to know them. It's like, if you know us and you've been following us, this is just the cherry on top of our life.
Until you look at social media and you're like, babe, it's weird. Every week when we air a new episode, I lose followers on social media.
Actually, I'm gaining. Thank you, though.
Hopefully they love it. Hopefully they enjoy it. It's silly and goofy, and we need to have a couple followers on.
We do. Ooh, that'd be good. I think I want to get like maybe 10 episodes in so we can cover a little bit more about our life. You know, the first episode was, hey, this is who we are. Our second one's like how we met, we dated, and then third one, engagement and marriage, and then today we want to talk about surrogacy. And
what are we talking about after that?
Our big changes in life.
Okay.
And then I think like an RV life one. And then from there we can kind of do whatever. Like that gives
like
people up to date.
want to know about content creation.
They do. Okay,
I would
that's a good one.
That should probably be
maybe
pretty
that
cool.
one will be next. So we have like 3 more ideas in addition to today's. So like I said, you know, maybe episode 11. Do you guys like that idea? You know, hit me up with a DM on Instagram.
It might have to be before that. If we've got like 6 episodes. I don't know. We gotta
build the follower base, the listener base here before we have no. I mean, I have no clue what I'm doing. Dan podcast for a living. So like,
listen, we have like 10 times more followers in 1/5 of the episodes, or 10 times more downloads in 1/5 of the episodes. So, I'd say you're doing all right.
Okay. Yay. High five.
Sweet.
All right, today's episode is all about surrogacy. We have been sharing our life and our surrogacy journey with you guys on all of our platforms, and we get so many questions about why we did surrogacy, how it was emotionally, mentally, how I got Dan on board with it, and did I have to convince him, like, you know, how the journey was. And so I just figured from, you know, the start of us thinking about it and to where we are now, we can just give you a little bit more insight. You know, we share like insight and advice and like humor behind it, like on social media, and, you know, give little updates and stuff, but maybe just talking it through and you guys, you know, listening to it on your drive to work or something would be more informational. So yeah, we had Canyon is our oldest. He's 6. We had him August 31st of 2016. Loved parenthood. And we were excited to have
He was an easy baby.
Oh yeah. And with him being an easy baby, we're like, oh, we're gonna have like 4 or 6 kids. Like, this is gonna be. We even at one point we're like, let's have 8, or let's have kids and adopt kids. Like,
I think at one point we said we were gonna have 5 and adopt 5.
I can remember that conversation.
And in comes Ember.
And then comes Ember, March, so 3/17, 18. Yes, 2 years apart. 18 and a half months apart. Oh my gosh. Yeah, in March. And when we talked about, we went from 10 kids, but then it was 8, then it was 6, then we kind of settled at 4. So after Canyon, we're like, okay, here's the deal.
Did we settle at 4 before?
We did, because you said with how old you were, Dan wanted to have 4 kids, like every 9 months, you have a baby, 9 months later you get pregnant, have a baby, 9 months later you get pregnant. We wanted like 4 kids back to back so they could be all 18 out of the house by the time you're
50.
Yes, that was
I had to cut off.
Plan.
I said, listen, I want to have our final baby at 32.
Yeah.
Boom. I want to be 50 empty nesters, still have a lot of life left, maybe a moderate
amount
of
energy,
a little bit of life left, who knows.
A little bit. And so, yeah, we had Ember, and right after Ember, it was that 3-month mark. And with Canyon, right after I had him, it was like 2 weeks later, I was like, all right, let's do this again. Like, let's have another one. Because he was so easy. Pregnancy, delivery was easy.
And what did I always tell you when you wanted another baby?
Wait for the second?
No.
Oh, I don't remember.
I said it's just like football, babe. Leading up to the big game, you need to have 2-a-days.
Oh, yes.
Always.
When we were working on getting pregnant, we did have 2 days.
It doesn't take if I look at you the wrong way, you get pregnant. I don't know if it's me or you, but
Both.
one of us is potent.
Both. Yeah, we're super thankful and blessed we didn't have any struggles with infertility. But yeah, we had Ember, and afterward, both of us, we never were like, are you ready for another one? We never had that thought. It was like, yeah, I think we hit our limit. And bless her heart, she is now at 4 years old, almost 5. She is the sweetest. She's like our Sour Patch Kid. She's so sweet, but she can be so spicy. A little bit of sass in there.
Sour Patch Kids are sweet and sour.
I mean, well, whatever. She's like the Mexican candy. She's the Mexican candy Sour Patch Kid.
It's the Mexican candy Sour Patch Kid.
Cholula? Wait, what? What's this?
What are you saying? What are you doing?
You guys know the Mexican candy with the like chili powder on it that you eat that's like sweet but like spicy.
I have no idea what you're saying right now.
Dan's missing out on the good
hot
stuff
tamale?
right now. Whatever.
No, yeah, she's sweet and sour or spicy.
And was just a little bit more work with parenting than Canyon was, which, I mean, rightfully so. It's a different season of life. Like, every kid is different. Every child's going to respond different and behave different. But for us, you know, we looked at that, like the parenting side of it. But then we also looked at our life and where we were at in our season of life and what we like to do and where we saw our life going. And we just thought to ourselves, more than 2 kids, like, doesn't really fit our lifestyle right now. We like to travel. We like to adventure. And we felt like the 1-to-1 ratio, we had our boy, we had our girl, like we felt good and content with that. But I didn't feel like I was done being pregnant. I didn't feel like I was done delivering and going through pregnancy, but I did feel like I was done parenting, which is weird because I'm parenting for the rest of my life. Like, even after our kids are 18 out of the house, like, you're still a mom, you're still parenting. But I didn't feel like as to go through those like toddler years and baby years again, I didn't want that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be pregnant, which was the weirdest thought to me, the weirdest feeling. I didn't know much about surrogacy at this time.
You said for a long time after each that you're like, I just really miss labor and delivery.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Like, so weirded out.
Are you a serial killer? I'm like, what's wrong with you? Why would you like that? I didn't like it. I don't know.
I think it's just, because I had very low risk pregnancies, like really good deliveries, I was just so amazed at what my body could do. And like, we, you know, the Lord's enabled us, or me, or most women, to you know, be able to carry the baby, grow the baby, deliver the baby, feed the baby. That it's just crazy. It's a crazy like concept to me, and it's like thrilling and like, I don't know, there's just something about it. Dan's like looking at me like, yeah, you're crazy. But yeah, there's just something about it. And you know, again, was super thankful that I had good pregnancies and labors, and oddly enough, I wanted to do it again, but we did feel like we were done with our own. And so I just started like thinking about it, and I was hanging out with a friend one night, and I told her she has 4 kids now, but she was like on her 3rd, and she was like, so are you guys gonna have another baby? And I was like, you know, I don't think so. I was like, we feel really good with 2. I said, but I do, like, oddly enough, miss pregnancy and labor. Like, I want to go through that again. She was like, why don't you become a surrogate? And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, secretly I've been thinking about this and praying about it, but I haven't talked to anyone. So it was really weird that it kind of came up in conversation. And I felt like it was kind of just confirmation from the Lord, like, hey, look into this more, pray about it, research it. And so from there, I started researching it so that when I presented it to Dan, I knew what I was talking about. And I found several great articles. I wish I would have written them down so I could remember and look back today, but articles, and then there was one documentary I watched, and then one day I approached Dan, was it before work or after work? After work. I was like, hey, so we don't want to have any more kids. We got Ember, we got Kanan. What do you think about surrogacy? And he was like, huh? And I was like, what do you think about like me becoming a surrogate? And he was like, well, I don't want to like give our baby up. And I'm like, well, it wouldn't be our baby. We're as a gestational carrier. It's not my egg that's used, so it's not our genetics. I would just carry the baby for someone.
I thought you were playing a prank on me at first. I really did. I was like,
because we'd never talked about it before.
No, never. And so you brought it up, and then I was sitting there thinking, like, she's not serious. There's no way she's serious. Yeah. But this was before social media. Yeah. So, like, I didn't even think to look around for a hidden cell phone that you were recording.
I wish I would have. I've been good to look back.
But yeah. I thought it was a joke at first, and then you were like, no, this is what it is.
I like briefly mentioned, before dinner or something, what it entailed, that as a gestational carrier, wasn't my egg, wasn't his sperm. We weren't biologically related to the baby. It was just me carrying the baby and us going through delivering and, helping someone create a family, helping them bring their baby home, and, mentioned we can go through an agency or whatnot. And so we just talked about it, and he was kind of like, all right, we'll talk about it, pray about it, and we'll, come back to it later. It was about a week, and he was driving home from work, and he called me, and he was like, let's do it. And I'm like, let's do what? He's like, let's do surrogacy. I'm like, okay. So from that point on, we started researching a little bit more, and at that point, we had no clue, like, how to go about a journey, which I feel like is where a lot of you guys are who have messaged me, like, hey, I want to do surrogacy, but, like, where do I start? And we had no clue. Our most, the most thing we knew about surrogacy was baby mama, which is somewhat bad depiction of it. And so I Googled surrogacy agencies near me, and we were in Colorado at the time, and there were about 3 that pulled up. And in life, we always try to get 3 quotes, whether it's buying a car, buying a house, whatever. And so I called all 3. I think one of them I didn't hear back from. Shame on them. The second one, I think I heard back from, and then the third one I did too. And one of the 2, I just felt something with. I actually talked to one of the coordinators, and it just felt right. A lot of people ask me, how do you know it's the right agency that you're moving forward with? And whether it's that or even intended parents, which we will get into that later, we just go with what we feel a peace about. Yep. You never know. In some cases, what's right, the right decision, what's the wrong decision. But in some cases, you don't, and you just kind of have to pick what is the best fit, what gives you the most peace, which direction makes the most sense. And so we picked an agency that we really liked. We liked the coordinator. She was super helpful, and we started on our paperwork, passed all our background checks and everything. We did a home visit. She came and looked around our house or whatever, I guess just sat and had a conversation with us. And then our last step before matching was to have a psychological screening. And we went down to Denver, and sometimes they're virtual, sometimes they're in person, and this one was in person. And you did one, was it over the phone?
I think so, yeah.
Dean's was a 30-minute over the phone, but mine was a 30-minute in-person interview. And then I had to take this MMP something, this personality test, which was 300 questions, true or false, and it was exhausting. I'm not a good test taker. I failed out of nursing school because I didn't pick the most right answer. There's the right answer, but then there's a more right answer, and I did not choose the right one. And so with this personality test, you can't put a lot of thought into the questions. You just have to answer and move on. Well, when they have questions like,
you analyze things way too much, because you'll be like, well, wait a minute, so this means this, but
also,
and so when you first told me about the test, you're like, I didn't know, I froze on a couple, because it would say I get extremely angry when someone breaks the law.
Yeah, and I'm like,
and you're like,
I don't get angry.
I don't like when people break the law, but do I get extremely angry? But if I say no, I don't get extremely angry. Is that saying that I'm okay with people breaking the law?
Yeah, like...
And I was like...
So for people like me, it was just not good.
Yeah, and so basically what it ends up being is it's checking to see if you're consistent in your answers from one to the next, but based on the way they're worded, yours came up...
Yeah,
so
was it
not insufficient or inaccurate or something?
I passed, but only marginally. I marginally passed to the standards of the agency. So the agency has set standards for the psychologist with the testing. So I passed, but not like to the level of the agency. So they had me came back the next week, took a different one that was 50 questions. Again, it was like true, mostly true, partially true, false, and it was the same thing. And the psychologist had to be like, hey, like, I'm so sorry. The test results are this way, but because of the standards of the agency, you can't move forward with their agency. And I was devastated because at this point I had felt like this was something the Lord placed on our heart. This is something we prayed about. This is something we felt at peace in being obedient, taking a step of faith and doing. That I was like, wait, why is this not working out? Like, why is this not working out when this was what was supposed to happen? And so honestly, I walked through a lot spiritually and praying about it and like wrestling with the Lord, like, okay, wait, you called us to do this, but is it just the wrong timing? Is this not the route that we need to go and whatnot? So long story short, we ended up, I called my friend because she is a counselor and I was like, please tell me there's nothing wrong with me. I'm like, I just marginally passed this test. And she was like, oh my gosh, you're fine. Like, you know, the tests are crazy. Even my OB was like, I wouldn't even pass that test because it's exhausting, like 300 questions. But we ended up moving a few months later, moving back to Missouri, which was our like home state. And, you know, it was just, I think, the wrong timing for us with our move and just like
but in that time frame, we were with a different agency, right? Nope,
just an individual. So I didn't pass that test. So a few months later, my OB reached out to me and she was like, hey, there's, because I had to get my approval from her to do surrogacy. So she knew that we were like looking into it. She said, there's a couple that I know that is looking to go through surrogacy or they're looking for a surrogate. Can I like do a connection email or whatever? I was like, absolutely. Like, so this was in a sense our first bout at like an independent journey. And so she like said, we did a connection email. We emailed back and forth a couple times and wanted just like real basic questions, like to make sure we were on the same page before we like met in person. And they did ask about termination and we just stated, you know, we would prefer not to have termination on the table unless my life was at risk. And they stated that they did want to have it on the table just because of past experiences of friends that they knew that did surrogacy, that you know, something happened with their child and they just wanted that option. And so again, we kind of reiterated, you know, we would just prefer that it wasn't on the table unless my life was at risk. And I think it was just maybe a miscommunication because we did end up sitting down for dinner and, you know,
I think it was just a miscommunication.
Yeah.
I don't think that either party knew how strongly the other felt about their stance on termination.
Yes.
And so had we known that, we just would have never gone to dinner because
we didn't want to waste
nobody was going to budge. And like, we're very solid on that point. We're like...
And I always want to hear people out on like why they want to have termination. Like, you know, and firm believers in being pro-life, like above all, like, you know, we cherish life and we believe in healing. We believe that God has a plan for everyone's life. But I in a sense, quotes, understand for someone who's coming from infertility and they're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into a surrogacy agent or surrogacy journey, and they want their baby. They want a healthy baby at the end of it. So I understand. But you know, we had our stance and what we desired, and we wouldn't want anyone to change, you know, their desires and what they want just for us. And just like I would, you know, hope that someone would want us to do what we feel is right for ourselves. And so, that one ended up not working out, just kind of falling out. I don't know. I was gonna say panning out. It didn't pan out. I was like, how does this?
We didn't make it to dessert.
We did.
Okay.
We did not make it to dessert.
Go to that.
So it was kind of an awkward ending, but wish them the best and hope all is well in their life now. But from that point on, we ended up moving back to Missouri. And then being back in Missouri, I think it was a couple months later, I ended up reaching out to a surrogacy agency, sent my information, like fill out the paperwork, and like crickets, like didn't hear anything. And I had talked to them on the phone, so it was super weird. I'm like, why did they not? I can't remember.
And now they're kicking themselves like, we could have had We Are Dan and Sam.
But again, I think it was just a timing thing that I think they ended up like rebranding or something, because I followed up like months later again. But then 2020 hit, and you know, COVID and lockdowns and everything. Well, we decided to travel and meet people we had met on Instagram. So we did this whole like East Coast, Florida
literally
trip.
The opposite thing that everybody was doing during COVID. Like, not even saying hello to their best friend or their sister.
Or, mom, dad.
And we're like, you know what? Let's travel the country and meet strangers. All right, perfect.
So it was so fun, though. We didn't get catfished. I think it was like 3 or 4 different people we ended up meeting. And through that, we had a conversation with one of the gals we met from Instagram, and she was like, hey, are you guys gonna have any more kids? And we're like, no, I think we're good with 2, but you know, we'd love to do surrogacy. And she was like, oh my gosh, my sister was a surrogate and she met her intended parents on Facebook. And I was like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, there's like matching groups on Facebook that you can
Facebook
meet.
Marketplace. They just met up.
That you can meet and, you know, kind of match and start a journey without an agency. And I thought that was the coolest thing, because I had not heard about that, you know, this far. So we finished our trip. I came back home and I like Googled surrogacy, you know, match groups, whatever. And I found 2 or 3 and I joined them all. And for about a month or 2, I just watched. I read what surrogates were posting, what intended parents were posting, what surrogates were asking for in a journey, what intended parents were asking for in a journey, just to really get context of what it means to go independent and how you match independently.
And it's kind of entertaining to see how different people go about it. Like, there are people who...
Be nice. Were you going to say that they just don't put their best foot forward when they...
Sure.
Yeah.
Or like, imagine going to a job interview in like... a tank top and basketball shorts. Yeah. Like, that's the equivalent of...
Some of them, yes.
Like, yeah, imagine that. You go to a job interview in a tank top, basketball shorts, sandals, and like...
Tattoos everywhere, which
and
is
you
fine.
don't have your hair done.
Yes.
Like, your hair just looks like you woke up.
Or
that is
you
the
have,
equivalent
like...
of some of the people on the Facebook match group.
Or you have, like, well-dressed, like... You know, their kids are in their pictures and their kids' hair is done.
Oh, yeah.
Or like, you could just see the difference. And again, to each their own. But
and you have
if
people
who
just have a picture of themselves and how much they charge. Literally. I'm like, it's
You're like, okay, I don't want to word it that way. I don't want to look like that. So I just got like, I mean, it's like dating app. It honestly is like dating, because...
We say that, and then here we are making TikToks that are basically all of these things.
That's true. I'm like, have no clothes on, and my hair is a mess, and no makeup on. But, you know, I looked and read everything of how I wanted to present ourselves, or how, like, you know, we wanted to approach the matching process. And so... one day I was like, all right, babe, I think I'm ready to like post in the group. Are you ready? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so I typed up, and I still have it saved and like screenshot of what I sent, but I was like, hey, you know, my name's Samantha, my husband Dan, we have 2 kids, I had great pregnancies and labors and, you know, healthy full-term deliveries. We're done growing our family, but we would love to someone else. We are gestational carriers looking for intended parents. And then a few things we desire in a journey is we would love a close relationship. I didn't want to get the COVID vax, and then we didn't want termination on the table unless my life was at risk. And then we just preferred a husband and wife couple. And then said, like, you know, looking forward to chatting with you or whatever, and shared a few family photos of us. And then I did a picture of me pregnant with Canyon, and then a picture of me with baby Canyon, pregnant with Ember, baby Ember, just so they could see, like, oh, okay, that's what she is like pregnant, or like that's like her family, and that's, you know, her 1 day postpartum. I don't know if they want to see that, but just to kind of give them some context. And it was like less than 24 hours, and we had several people that like commented. About 10 messaged us, and about 3 of them I was like, ooh, they all could or would be good potential candidates. And the next morning I was about to send this little questionnaire. It was like 10 questionnaire before really picking. It was like, you know, are you okay going independent? Do you agree to, you know, do compensation and cover medical premiums and all that? And then before I sent this questionnaire, I noticed another message request, and I opened it up, read it, and I, like, first line just started bawling. And I immediately called Dan. I think he was at work, and I was like, babe, read this. And I like read it to him. They like the same football team as us. They like were close to us within a few hours away, and everything just felt right. And again, it goes back to that question that you guys have about how do you know it's the right intended parents? How do you know this? And yes, have those things that like make sure those key points align, whether it's termination, vaccination, you know, whatever. Like there's key things that you have to make sure align, because pregnancy in general is a lot and is a journey, and surrogacy process in general is a lot. And so you don't want to have disagreements early on when you don't need them to be there.
Yeah.
And so once those are,
and there might be a lot of right couples.
Yes.
But there might be a most right.
Oh,
Ooh,
back to the nursing
Dang.
school. And so yeah, it just felt really right with them, and we messaged and said, hey, we'd love to, you know, hop on a Zoom call with you guys. And we did. I don't know if it was later that day or the next day. Oh, I did with the mother because the husband was out of town for work. Did we all do a call after that, or was it just her and I?
I think you guys did first.
Mm-hmm. And then we all did.
And then all of us did.
And the call with her went really well. It's like nerve-wracking, and I just answered a message this morning from a girl. She was like, hey, I'm meeting my, you know, potential IPs this weekend, and I'm super nervous. Like, any advice? And I was like, here's the deal. You're really nervous, but know that they're nervous too. Like, they want you to be the best for them. They want themselves to be the best for you. Like, it's a mutual, it's a first date. You know, like when you're meeting someone for the first time, you're like, oh, I hope he likes me. I hope she likes me. You're putting your best forward. They're putting their best foot forward. And so, like, be yourself. And yeah, we had a good first call. The call with all of us went well together, and they were a few hours away. And so we didn't actually meet them in person until our medical screening appointment.
Was it?
Yeah.
Dang, we didn't make a trip up there before that.
I don't think so. No. Oh, we did meet them. But
I was going to say, I felt like we did.
We rented the Jeep. I rented the Jeep up there.
Yeah.
Anyways, however it played out that we ended up meeting them. But we moved forward with them as an independent journey. And as an independent journey, the fertility doctor or the fertility clinic and your attorneys kind of give you the steps that you need to take of, and I have like I don't know if it's on my website, but you guys can message me, a little like step-by-step thing, like, hey, do this first, just to kind of keep you in line. But even though it's independent, you still do everything legitly.
Yeah.
Is that right? Legitly? Is that a word? Legitimately? You still do everything right. There's contracts still. You still have separate attorneys. I highly recommend escrow because, again, surrogacy and pregnancy is emotional and mental, and, you know, it's exhausting that you don't want to be like, hey, did you send my compensation check this
There's
week?
nothing.
Hey, did you send
there's nothing more awkward than like
having to like
asking,
because it's like it's the elephant in the room. It's the unspoken thing that yes, you are getting compensated to carry my baby, but no one wants to be like, hey, did you? Like, it's just weird. So
no, and we never had to
company,
do that.
No.
Just to throw that out there, like we never had to do that. But I'm saying, like,
it would
say your buddy owes you $20 and you're like, hey man, did you ever pay me that $20? AKA, I know you didn't, and I need it. Like, you don't want to do that, especially in this type of scenario.
Yeah, and so go through an escrow company, and yeah, so everything on an independent side, you still do everything right and contractual. And so, you know, just briefly on it's our first surrogacy journey, but now that we're moving into our official second, I can't really call this one the first one because we didn't have a baby, and I don't want people to get confused, but for us, we went through a lot of steps before our first quote journey ended.
Yeah.
We matched it was like October 1st of 2020. Yeah. October 1st of 2020. We finalized contracts, I think, at the end of beginning of December. But I started it was mid-December. I started estrogen shots to the rear, so I Del estrogen shots. We were prepping my body for transfer, and then whenever we would go in for baseline appointments to make sure my lining was at where it wouldn't actually thicken. So right before my first appointment, we hopped on a FaceTime call with the intended parents, and I had this weird, and I wish I would have written it down in my journal because I write everything down in my journal, like big key things that happen in life. And I had this thought one day, like vision, epiphany, I don't know, like how cool would it be if the intended mother miraculously got pregnant and was able to carry a viable pregnancy. And I was pregnant at the same time, and she had like...
And you were both pregnant with, pregnant. Sisters or siblings.
Yeah, I was like, that would be so crazy. And I just like went out about my day and kind of forgot about it. Well, we had a FaceTime call before our appointment, and they were like, hey, so we just want to let you know we are pregnant. And I was like, I was so excited, but I wasn't in shock because I already like...
You had this feeling.
I already had this feeling.
I've learned to listen to your feelings like that.
Yeah.
She has feelings, and she'll be like, I feel like a big change is coming, like we're moving or something. And I'm like, okay.
Just wait till you hear some of the stuff.
Weeks later, we move.
Yeah, just wait till you hear some of the stuff. That's going to be our next week episode because it's good, and it plays into a lot in our life and where we have come from and where we are now. And so, yeah, they told us they were pregnant at that point. I think she was 8 weeks. They had never made it to that 8 weeks, 8-week mark, if I'm remembering correctly. And they said, at this point, we don't know how this is going to go. Like, we're nervous. We're, having hope, faith that it's going to work, that it's going to continue. But let's keep moving on the journey if you're okay with that. And we're like, we're okay with it. Be like, whatever you want to do to bring your babies into this world, like, we're for it.
Yeah.
So we agreed to move forward. That first med cycle we ended up canceling because my lining wasn't thick enough. And we were about to start the second med cycle. But at this point she was 19 weeks along. Something crazy.
She was way farther than she'd ever been.
It was a picture perfect pregnancy. Like, everything was perfect. She, I want to say, had 4 miscarriages. I'm really sorry if I'm botching this. But I want to say she lost 4. And so this was their first, like, no meds required to get pregnant. Like, huge miracle.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's I need to make note of this. Because back in November, so we met them October 1st, November, maybe it was December, I can't remember. But before we signed contracts or something, there's a song by Carrie Job, and I listened to Carrie Job. She sings a lot of worship songs. I listened to her through my pregnancies, through my labors, through like years ago in my college age years of like going through breakups, where it just brings me back to a place of peace and just like giving everything to the Lord and letting Him lead. And there's a song that she wrote, dang it, I'm trying to think of the song, but it's talking about the barren woman, and I gotta look it up because I'm gonna lose my mind if I don't know this. But I sent this song to your nature. It's in your nature. It's in God's nature to do good. That's what it's called. Carrie Job, your nature. So it's in God's nature to do good. Life is in His nature. And it talked about the barren woman and bringing life and water to a dry stream and life to a barren woman. And I sent it to the intended mother, and I was driving to a wedding like an hour away, and I sang that song over and over and over, and I was really just singing it and praying it over the intended mother and them. And because it's talking about just lifting up your hands and releasing it and letting God and just life come into them. And so coming from that, and then my little epiphany, thought of her being pregnant, and then to them actually being pregnant, was like crazy to me. That it was like huge miracle. And so, however God used us as a vessel to maybe, be a part of their life and, go with them on this journey. And in talking with the intended parents, whenever we did decide to terminate contracts because her pregnancy was going so well and she made it to viability, they said, the infertility affects everyone so many different ways, but our specific intended mother for this journey, she said, she was like, we don't know what happened, how this happened, but she said, we do know that when we started a journey with you guys, we did feel at peace and we weren't stressed out. And so maybe them just kind of accepting where they were in at their season of life and having a surrogate, they weren't stressing about medications, they weren't stressing about getting pregnant or nervous about
figuring
it,
out the timing and worrying what was going to happen.
Exactly. And so for them in their situation, she said, I think that's kind of what allowed us to just relax and however it happened. I can't, like I said, infertility affects everyone in so many different ways, medical and whatnot. And so but we're really thankful that they ended up getting pregnant. Her pregnancy again just continued really tired.
I am tired.
went really well, and they delivered a healthy baby girl in September of 2021. And so yeah, we were really excited. So that was like our first kind of half journey.
It was good. Like the entire thing, start to finish.
Yeah.
I feel like
about 9 months.
Yeah, it was. But it was really cool to just be able to talk with them and get to learn or get to know them and encourage them. And then like on our end, we learned so much about surrogacy, about the process.
I feel like it strengthened our faith, our relationship.
Oh, for sure.
Even this last journey, like we learned so much through it. We grew so much through it. And once we terminated contracts, it was like middle of June, and we took a couple weeks to pray about it. Like, well, you know, we had this desire to do this. Do you want to move forward? How does rematching look? And whatnot. And so we ended up July 1st rematching. So we mentioned it on social media because we already shared our first journey. And we had a couple intended parents who messaged us, and one that stood out to us through the months of us ending that half journey. We kind of flagged a few messages of people that we kind of felt something towards their message of, you know, hey, should your journey end, we would love to chat with you. And our last intended parents were one of them, and we read their message. She filled out this little questionnaire that I had, and we had a Zoom call with them. I remember it was like the weekend before July 4th. And it just felt right. It was so fun. We were so giddy and so excited, and so glad that the matching process.
We just weren't expecting to have 2 matches like that. Yeah. Especially going
quick
on
matches,
Facebook.
Yeah, quick matches and like through social media.
Yeah.
For sure. And so this last journey, you know, we've shared heavily on all of our platforms, so I don't want to go into so many details because you guys have probably already seen it, but again, just super thankful that our journey went so well physically, pregnancy wise, the first transfer took, and
I always call it our second journey, but like our first complete journey.
Yeah, first full journey. I just never want to confuse people. You know, again, that first quote journey was 9 months of our life, and you know, I took those shots. I had shots to the rear. Like, I'm not just taking those for nothing. So I'm claiming my 1.5 journey so far, going into my 2.5 journey. And so yeah, this last journey, we're super thankful just with how everything went, and you know, labor and now postpartum, and looking into our next journey. And rematching is nerve-wracking, and you know, we had
gosh, we're like basically in the rematching process right now, aren't we?
We are.
Whoa.
We are. You don't realize it as much as I do, because I'm like having those conversations with our surrogacy agency. But we are. So with our first 2 matches, we matched independently. But because where we are at now with sharing our life on social media, we do get so many emails and messages about wanting to rematch. And I wish that I could be like Oprah, like, you get a baby, you get a baby. And I wish I could be a surrogate multiple times, like many times. But we do feel like this is our last one. You know, we want to be present for our kids, present for each other. And it's a year plus process, and we want to focus on our family, but we do feel led to do another journey. And so with all these inquiries of wanting to match with us, it's hard to be like, oh, you're the one. You are the one we're going to match with. And so we have decided to move forward with a surrogacy agency, so that we can just have that support and that filtering process. And also they've offered to waive the agency fee for our intended parents, because surrogacy through an agency can be costly, but you do have that extra support, and they help facilitate the appointments and follow up on contracts and whatnot. And so it is helpful. But if an intended parent and surrogate knows what they're doing and knows the process, then it's a little bit cheaper going independently. And so our surrogacy's offered to waive it. And like I said, at this point, we just need that extra support on our side of the journey, because making those phone calls, sending those emails about appointments and paperwork can be quite time consuming.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, with like, I guess looking forward to our next journey, what are you looking for most? What are you hoping for?
I don't know. I think it would be the same expectation that we had on the first 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like to find a couple that we both get along with. You know, like you get along with the wife, I get along with the husband. We've got similar interest, and that's what we want this to be, is like a relationship instead of a transaction.
Yeah.
And that's what we've always said from the get-go, you know, like we want, and nothing against the people who do anonymous surrogacy.
Yeah, because I know people
because there's people who literally have a baby for someone in a different country. They never meet, they never talk.
Yeah.
It's all through
or they don't see the baby ever
an
again.
agency or a site or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine, but for us, we just have always been like, oh man, you know, if this is going to happen, we feel like we want to have these people in our lives.
Yeah, it's a big part of our lives, and our kids are involved with it. You know, you guys saw Ember touching my belly, kissing my belly constantly, and you know, with how the last transition went from me being pregnant to postpartum, and you know, not seeing the baby again. Like, Ember's doing great right now.
Yeah.
I'm really thankful. I'm so thankful that emotionally, mentally, I'm doing well. We're doing well. But, you know, we would also love to continue celebrating a baby's life for years to come. I mean, this is something that we felt God called us to do. We were obedient in doing, and to have that continued, like, just celebration of life for years to come. We really want that. And so.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be cool to get the call, like, hey, you know, the birthday's coming up, you guys should come hang out.
Yeah, or we're traveling and we want to stop by, like we're in town or something.
Yeah, and I mean, we're pretty relational people anyways. You know, we don't go out and make a million friends and have like 1,000 people that are always calling us wanting to do stuff. We've got a handful of really good friends, but I feel like this is something that obviously you could bond over really easily and really quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think just like with sharing our journey in life and advice and insight and advocating for surrogacy, I would love a couple who would want to share as well, because we get so many messages from intended parents asking for advice and insight, and I have like, you know, an article on our website, but I can't speak from that perspective. We have another intended mother that we're really close with, and so a lot of times I'll ask her, hey, like, if I said this, like, how does that make you feel? Or like, am I right in, you know, thinking this or saying this, just to get her perspective. And it's helpful to have that, but I would love for, like, you know, intended parents who match with us to want to share that journey as well, because again, it's just sharing about life and advocating for surrogacy that is just continuing to grow, and like our knowledge of surrogacy and it being more common and more known. So that, and then
and we talked about at one point doing almost like a surrogacy podcast, where we have intended mothers and surrogates all on to share about their experience, share about what they But I feel like to have somebody else, or you know, the other half of the equation involved, and for them to help encourage and share and bring light to, you know, the issues that come up, as well as like the positives and things that are unknown or unexpected that you just don't even think to plan for going into it. But for all of our journeys, we always said, like, hey, we want to impact people. We want to encourage them and just show love to them and share opportunities of how you can create a family more than the traditional way. Because, you know, this is far from traditional. But it's an amazing way for people to bring home a baby that's theirs. And so I hope that it just continues to grow. And through that, I mean, social media was never like, oh, we're gonna just do social media full time. But honestly,
we were already sharing our life at that point, and we were our whole, like, I guess, motto in sharing was we share everything from the good to the bad, and no matter what we're doing. Like, I never wanted to be a one niche type of person, because when we first started sharing our life, it was like motherhood, and then it turned into like flipping our RV, and then we were renting our RV, and then we lived in it, and then it was surrogacy. Like, we just want to share our life in general. So if our life includes being a surrogate, well, that's the content you're going to get. If our life includes traveling in an RV, that's what you're going to get. If we build a house, you're going to get house building. Like, we just want you to see us, like, know us as people, but then you get our life and everything that comes with it as well. But sharing the good and the bad.
Well, and to be able to share all of that, but like to use the platform as a force for good and encouragement and stuff like that. Like, obviously, the more followers, the more views, the more all of that,
insight,
the more information we can get the same information out to more people. We can encourage more people. We can love on more people. And so I'm hoping that all continues, and that we can almost build a community of resources for everybody.
Yeah.
You know.
I would agree. I love that. Okay, I do have a question. How? Because people do ask a lot.
Is this like a trick question? Is this like a?
No, I just kind of jumped into that. But
when you surprise me with things like that, I'm like, all right, is she wanting a certain response here? I don't know.
No, answer however you feel. But a lot of people do want to know, like, on your perspective, how was it? I've gotten so many questions about you. First, like, did I have to convince you? How was it giving shots to me? How was it seeing my body change? One person asked, like, how does your husband view you, or does he view you differently because you're pregnant with someone else's baby instead of your own? Your body's changing, but it's not like your body's not changing for your family, it's changing for someone else. Like,
I mean, is a balloon less fun to play with because somebody else blew it up and not you?
I guess not.
No.
Does that have helium in it?
Does it have helium? No, I think that
I thought you were gonna say something about my balloon flabby boobies. My deflated balloon boobies.
they went from like, you know when you haven't popped the balloon, but it had air in it, but it like slowly deflated. And then they went to like full on.
Be nice.
Like you're about to water balloon fight with somebody, like, and then they went to like time to clean up the party and pop all these balloons real quick.
Anyways, I get what you're saying with two balloons. It's the same thing, whether.
Yeah, I mean your body changing didn't affect me any different than it did with our kids.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, well, she's doing this for somebody else. Like, if it was for me,
even more so.
If it was for me to have my own kid, then it's okay that her body changes. Like, I don't even know how.
Also,
I don't even know
I think it was a guy that commented this, because then I was like, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a girl. But I was like, excuse me. Because they said something like, oh, like, what a shame you have to get, like, because I was working out and they were like, oh, what a shame you're going to get pregnant and fat again. I was like, excuse me, I think I'm pretty hot pregnant, so don't even come at me. I feel like I'm at my best, like, second trimester. Like, my boobs are there, like, I'm active again. I don't know.
See, I don't know what someone would expect. Like,
I know.
I'd be curious to hear someone's perspective who is like, man, it's really annoying that her body's going through this for somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't really understand where that question would be coming from.
I've actually got it multiple times.
That's very interesting to me, because I've never given it a second thought. Like, honestly, none of it. Even like the emotional side of it. I feel like the emotional side of it is
the worst.
So much worse than the physical side of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, because you're on hormones and medication, and like, not only that, but then you're having to face your fear of needles every single night.
Oh my God.
And so, like, that side of it, even then, I'm not like, I can't believe she's going through all of this for somebody else. Like, because I knew that it was a calling that you felt on your life, and not just, like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I mean, I've had zero issues with it throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
I feel like.
And that's good, because I honestly needed him. People messaged me, because after I delivered, I shared a TikTok and I was like, we did it. And that's literally after I delivered, I looked at him and I said, babe, we did it. And everyone's like, we did it, you did it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I did it, but here's the thing, I couldn't have done it without you. Dan gave me 65 out of my 70 shots, or maybe 66, I don't know, out of my 70 shots.
Oh yeah, because you did go on one trip. Yeah,
we went on a girls trip, and I had a girl that I had met for 4 hours give me my nightly shots for several nights, because I couldn't do it myself. One, I did myself, but he gave me like 65 plus shots. You were there for me every emotional.
I feel like the shots were my favorite part of the whole thing.
Oh, you got great.
Yeah, because if you were like a little sassy to me throughout the day, I'm just like, I'm just kidding.
Giving me my shots, being there for me for every emotional hard day. If I was physically just tired and drained, him being there with the kids, taking care of me. And labor is no joke. I'm very thankful that for us in labor, we have a system of like what works for me during labor. He knows his role, his job, and together we did it. And seeing we have video of it. Dana was able to take some videos in the delivery room after delivery, but seeing the look of just gratitude and thankfulness on the intended parent's face when they got to hold their baby. And right before they held him, they came over to me, gave me a hug and thanked me. And it's like, I did what I vowed to do. And I, like, that moment meant so much.
See, and for me, like, I guess in that moment, I wouldn't even be like, oh man, they're so, the amount, no.
No, I'm listening.
Oh, you look at me funny. I wouldn't have been like, oh, like the look of gratitude and thankfulness, but like, it was just like awe.
It was,
you know, it was just like,
yeah. But you could.
Our
like,
baby is here.
Oh, I'm sure it was like so
you know,
much
like,
emotion. Yeah, like
but I mean,
something that we've waited for and prayed for, and you know, they had so many hard losses that to then like their baby.
But
like,
it's a weird thing to experience somebody else going through that moment. Not a weird thing. It's a
like
really
fly
amazing
on the wall
thing
to be watching it.
Yeah,
yes.
Because think about how many people get to
yeah.
experience
like,
seeing somebody else. Yeah, well, like for us, we got to experience it for ourselves.
Yeah.
But how many people, aside from surrogacy, or unless you're like a healthcare worker in the maternity
I'd like
ward,
to know what the nurse is, like
you
how they
probably
feel.
don't get to see somebody else experience that moment ever.
Yeah.
Like, I bet you it's less than 1% of the population
for sure.
gets to experience watching someone else experience that.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
It was pretty wild. I mean, like, just sitting there like, this is amazing. Like, we are so excited for them.
Yeah.
And you went from absolute crazy, like, ah! to, hey babe, we did it.
We did it.
I was like, and she's back.
And then immediately back to screaming when they stick the, what is it, lidocaine? Like 5-6 inch needle up my hoo-ha.
Oh yeah.
That is worse than labor. Worse.
That wasn't fun.
So bad.
I think I still have nail marks on my hand from that, yeah.
I won't go into the birth story because we do talk about it all on our YouTube channel, and so you can go over to our channel, We Are Dean and Sam on YouTube, and we talk through it, and then I do a birth vlog where we vlog everything, and so you can go watch it there. But yeah, that is just like, you know, we wanted to share our hearts on surrogacy of why we decided to do it, kind of like what led us to this point of now starting our third, you know, second full journey, and rematching, and why we're going through an agency, and you know, your perspective on it. And again, we're excited to just continue sharing our life, and it just so happens that means sharing another surrogacy journey, and it's been a huge honor, and I don't take any of it lightly. The amount of messages we've received, like thanking us for sharing insight, for sharing perspective, asking for prayer. We've heard so many vulnerable stories about loss and just the struggles that you guys have gone through with trying to conceive and carry a baby, that I don't take what I share lightly, and I share everything to the best of my knowledge, in the best way, and being truthful and honest and upfront. And I'm beyond thankful that you trust us with your vulnerable stories, and you trust us, you know, with some of the hardest moments you've had to walk through, that we are able to kind of walk through it with you and pray for you. And really quick, I want to mention in 2020, maybe 2021, our pastor did a sermon on like dangerous prayers, and one of the prayers was, God, break my heart for what breaks yours. And in that moment, I'm like, well, I don't really know like what I could pray
really
for.
Want a broken heart,
right? And our pastor did say, like, warning, when you pray these prayers, like, something's gonna happen. And I really feel like, you know, God seeing his daughters, you know, going through infertility or loss and struggle and pain and hurt, that pain that people experience, like I've never walked through that. I've never experienced it myself. But in the moment of praying, like, God, break my heart for what breaks yours, I really feel like in this surrogacy journey, I'm going to cry. And I told you in the first episode, I'm going to cry at one point in this podcast.
I figured you'd cry multiple times in the podcast.
Like, I really feel like us going on this surrogacy journey, like, I could empathize. Am I saying that right? Because I can't sympathize because I didn't walk through it myself, but I could empathize because we walked through a hematoma and a huge miscarriage scare, and, you know, surrogacy is hard, and, you know, physically hard and draining. And so I was able to empathize, and I really feel like God just helped me get a glimpse of what someone with infertility goes through, because I'm able to hear your stories and hear your perspective. And so thank you guys for sharing just, you know, your life with us. And yeah.
Wow.
Sorry.
I don't know how to follow that up. I feel like I just need to tell a joke or something instead.
No.
That was good.
Do you feel the same?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You know, just...
It feels like it's a great honor to be a part of so many people's journeys, and to encourage and inspire and almost be a voice or an advocate for surrogacy in helping people understand like the different ways that they can create a family. Yeah. And so I feel like as a couple we feel honored to have any type of voice in this.
Yeah.
You know, like
for real.
We just came into this because we felt a calling, and then we're like, man, if we had no clue about this,
surely others don't know either.
Then there's a lot of people who don't understand.
Which is why.
And then to find out the numbers on it, it's like what, 800 a year?
Yeah, I would say it's like 800 surrogate births a year. And we're like, that's it.
I'm like, man, there's a lot of people.
Gestational.
There's a lot of people who want this, and I mean, it's the same thing with like adoption, like the voices for adoption out there, and the people who encourage adoption and open everyone's eyes to, like, you know, the pros, the cons, the cost, the issues that could arise, the benefits of it. It's like, obviously adoption is so much greater. Yeah. The foster care system is so much bigger than the surrogacy deal.
And people sharing about it.
And so like this, you know, there are some people who just don't feel called to adopt. Yeah. And they do want their own biological child. And this is obviously a way that they can do it when there's some type of reproductive issue. Yeah. And we're going long, so we'll tie it up here, but we have friends who are going through the adoption agency, and so we get comments all the time like, why don't intended parents just adopt? Adoption isn't the answer. Adoption is still very hard, very time consuming, very costly. Our friends are so sweet. They will be the best parents. They have great jobs. They have a great home. Like, they are ready to match, or ready to, I think it's matching, I think that's what it's called. But they're still waiting on their match. They're still waiting on their baby. And so for someone to say like, oh, just adopt, it's not that easy. Like, there's a lot to it. And so, thanks for some people, like, that's the right avenue, but, you know, for some it's not. And with surrogacy, like, we want to open people's eyes to the different options that there are out there. And so I thought it was insane. I was like, man, you know, if you can't have a baby, you can't have a baby. Yeah. And then come to find out, like, you can actually have a biological child. Yeah. That's yours, that somebody else helps you grow. And I'm still kind of like, huh? Okay, I saw a TikTok the other day about I'm gonna botch this, a fake womb, like a clear ball. It's like a warehouse. No, a bunch of wombs. Nope, I'm out. It was weird. I'm out. I don't like it. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know how to feel. That's for another conversation for a different day. It was like a 5-minute video though. Just an artificial womb is what they call it. Yeah, an artificial. Yeah. Oh, and it was like, it was giving stats of how many babies per month, per year can be born, and that like it's like non-bacterial or whatever. It's like safe because of you know, no interference, or they could better track like breathing and oxygen levels and blood pressure and heart rate and everything. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's the future. It just seems crazy to me. I don't feel like nurturing wise. I don't know. No, but I mean, think about it. Like, before long, they're gonna have like little speakers outside of it. And you could put a speaker too, where you could do different languages, and the baby could speakers. The parents could send in their audio files. It was connected to an app where you could see the babies growing. Like, I was gonna say, you could probably see like, it's like, gives me chills. You could like track the parent's heart rate and then have that like attached to it. I mean, you could but, like, personalize it on like the heart, the connection, the heart, like. Yeah, I don't know that the assembly line. Yeah, style is the way to go for babies. I don't know. I just saw it randomly, and I just thought of it whenever you said how many babies are born a year. So, another conversation for a different day. What year do we freaking live in? That's a thing. Holy cow! It was weird watching it. I was like, All right, so
artificial wounds.
Yeah, go ahead and try and fall asleep to that image. But yeah, thanks for listening.
I'll try to. I don't know. I don't even know if I can find the video now. I was gonna say I'll share it so you guys can watch, but just Google artificial.
I don't know that I want to watch it.
I just probably don't.
I mean, you're like an easy bake oven for babies, so.
It's kind of true.
Yeah.
But thanks again for tuning in. I guess we didn't go over too many like myths about surrogacy or misexpectations.
Were we supposed to?
I don't know. I just kind of recapped. I mean, this is our podcast. We get to decide what we do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Either listen or don't. Boom. Just kidding.
Roasted.
Just listen.
But yeah, Dan mentioned earlier just big changes in life, and I think next week talking about how we have this every 2 years we have a big change in life, and it's brought us through a lot of crazy, exciting things.
It's not really intentional either.
No, very unintentional, but we're like, Lord, are you trying to show us something that every 2 years you do something big in our life? So just to go into that.
It's probably a combination of that, and we just get bored with things pretty quickly, so it's like, gosh, coming up on 2
too
years.
Much insight. We gotta remember, you just give them a little hint, a little nibble off the reel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can't tell them.
Just a little nibble off the reel.
Off the
hook?
No, not the hook. The bait. A little nibble off the bait.
Well, yeah, I'm saying like they're nibbling the bait off the hook.
Yeah. Basically. Okay, next week we're going to chat all about big changes in our life. And then in the coming weeks, what did we say we were talking about? I was going to try to do a good ending and I can't even remember.
We'll talk about stuff. So come back if you want to hear more stuff.
Big changes and then... content creation. See,
content creation.
Content
there you
creation.
go. Listen, I almost fell
RV
asleep like twice during this podcast, so I can't remember what we talked about in the beginning.
Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in, listening to our podcast, putting up with all of our crazy
nonsense.
Antics. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.